Can love truly coexist with independence? Listen as Isabella, a fiercely independent woman, meets William, a man who respects her freedom. Their encounter sparks a journey of self-discovery and a sweet surrender to the possibility of a love that doesn't confine. Dive into their story. Now, as we prepare to dive into our story, make sure you're comfortable. Are you ready? It's story time. London, in the throes of the Industrial Revolution, was a city of contrasts. The cobblestone streets echoed with the clatter of horse-drawn carriages and the clamor of street vendors, while the air was thick with the scent of coal smoke and fresh bread. Amidst this bustling cityscape, a particular shop stood out. It was a textile shop, its windows adorned with the finest silks and cottons, a beacon of elegance amidst the chaos. Within this shop, a woman stood, her gaze sharp and discerning as she inspected a bolt of fabric. Isabella, with her dark hair neatly pinned up and her eyes a striking shade of green, was a figure of quiet authority. Her employees moved around her with a sense of purpose, their respect for her evident in their diligent work. Isabella's textile shop was not just a business. It was a testament to her independence. She had built it from the ground up, navigating the challenges of a male-dominated industry with a fierce determination. Her success was hard-earned, and she wore it with a quiet pride. As she finalized an order with a client, her friend and confidant, Margaret, entered the shop. Margaret, a woman of gentle demeanor and kind eyes, was a stark contrast to Isabella's fiery independence. Their friendship was a balance of opposites, a bond forged in their shared experiences as women navigating their own paths in a world that often sought to confine them. "Isabella," Margaret greeted, her voice soft yet firm, "you seem to be in your element." "Indeed, Margaret," Isabella replied, her lips curving into a small smile. "There's nothing quite like the thrill of a successful negotiation." Their conversation flowed naturally, moving from business to personal matters. When the topic of marriage arose, Isabella's expression hardened slightly. "I've told you before, Margaret, I have no interest in marriage. I value my freedom too much to surrender it." "But Isabella," Margaret countered gently, "not all marriages are confining. Some are partnerships, built on respect and equality." Isabella's response was cut short by the entrance of a man. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a quiet confidence that commanded attention, he was a striking figure. He introduced himself as William, an architect seeking textiles for a project. As Isabella and William discussed his needs, there was a spark of something more in their conversation. Their banter was filled with wit and subtle humor, a dance of words that hinted at a mutual respect and understanding. William's lack of surprise at Isabella's success was a refreshing change, and it intrigued her. "I must say, Miss Isabella," William said, his gaze meeting hers, "your success is a testament to your determination and skill. It is a pleasure to do business with you." The compliment, genuine and devoid of condescension, caught Isabella off guard. She found herself smiling, a genuine smile that reached her eyes. "Thank you, Mr. William. I look forward to our collaboration." As the day drew to a close, Isabella found herself reflecting on her interaction with William. His respect for her independence, his understanding of her ambitions, it was different, intriguing. But it was also a threat to the walls she had carefully built around herself. She stood by the window of her shop, watching as the city began to quiet down. The street lamps cast a warm glow on the cobblestone streets, the city settling into a peaceful lull. As she looked out at the city she loved, the city she had built her life in, she reaffirmed her commitment to her independence. "I am Isabella," she whispered to herself, her voice steady and resolute. "I am independent, and I will not surrender that for anyone." Yet as she closed the shop for the night, the image of William's respectful gaze and the sound of his kind words lingered in her mind. She shook her head, dismissing the thoughts. She was Isabella, fiercely independent and free, and she intended to keep it that way. As she made her way home, the city of London around her, vibrant and alive, she couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. Something had shifted today, something subtle yet significant. She didn't know what it meant, and she wasn't sure she wanted to find out. But as she closed the door to her home, the echo of the closing door resonating in the quiet night, she knew one thing for certain. Her life, as she knew it, was about to change. And for the first time in a long time, she was unsure whether she was ready for it. The morning sun streamed through the windows of Isabella's home, casting a warm glow on the antique furniture and well-loved books that filled the room. As she sipped her morning tea, her mind drifted back to the previous day's interaction with William. His words, his respect for her independence, it was different from what she was used to. She shook her head, dismissing the thoughts. She was Isabella, fiercely independent and free, and she intended to keep it that way. Her day was filled with the usual routine. She visited her shop, interacted with her employees, and dealt with her clients. But amidst the hustle and bustle of her day, her thoughts kept drifting back to William. She chastised herself for this distraction, reminding herself of her commitment to her independence. As the day progressed, William visited her shop again. He was there to discuss the progress of his project, his demeanor professional yet friendly. As they discussed the textiles and designs, their conversation flowed naturally, moving from business to personal topics. They found common ground in their shared love for London, their views on societal norms, and their mutual respect for independence. Their conversation was filled with subtle humor and a deep understanding of each other. It was a connection that went beyond their professional interaction, hinting at something more. Margaret, who had been observing their interaction, later discussed it with Isabella. "There's a spark between you two, Isabella," she said, her eyes twinkling with amusement. "You can't deny it." Isabella dismissed her friend's observation with a wave of her hand. "We are just business associates, Margaret, nothing more." But as the day came to an end, Isabella found herself grappling with her feelings for William. She was drawn to him, to his respect for her independence, to his understanding of her ambitions. But she was also afraid of what this could mean for her cherished independence. She decided to maintain her distance, to keep their relationship strictly professional. She was Isabella, fiercely independent and free, and she intended to keep it that way. As she closed the shop for the night, the city of London around her, vibrant and alive, she couldn't help but feel a sense of unease. Something had shifted, something subtle yet significant. She didn't know what it meant, and she wasn't sure she wanted to find out. But as she made her way home, the city lights reflecting in her green eyes, she knew one thing for certain. Her life, as she knew it, was about to change. And for the first time in a long time, she was unsure whether she was ready for it. Isabella stood in her shop, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. She had resolved to keep her relationship with William strictly professional, to protect her cherished independence. But as she looked at the invitation in her hand, an invitation to visit the site of his architectural project, she felt a flutter of anticipation. She knew she should decline, keep her distance, but something about the way he had asked, his belief in her input, made her agree. And so she found herself standing at the site of his project, her heart pounding in her chest. The project site was a symphony of organized chaos. Workers moved around with a sense of purpose, their respect for William evident in their diligent work. Isabella watched as William navigated the site, his passion for his work shining through in his every action. As they walked through the site, their conversation flowed naturally. They discussed the project, the textiles, the designs. But amidst the professional discussion, there were moments of personal connection. A shared laugh at a worker's joke, a mutual admiration for a particularly intricate design, a moment of silence as they watched the sun set over the city. These moments, these shared experiences, they stirred something within Isabella. She found herself drawn to him, to his passion, his respect for her independence, his understanding of her ambitions. But she was also afraid of what this could mean for her cherished independence. As she made her way home, the city lights reflecting in her green eyes, she felt a sense of unease. She was more drawn to William than ever, but she was also more determined to protect her independence. She confided in Margaret about her feelings for William and her fear of losing her independence. Margaret listened, her eyes filled with understanding. "Isabella," she said gently, "love and independence are not mutually exclusive. You can have both." Isabella considered her friend's words, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. She knew Margaret was right, but she was still afraid. She was Isabella, fiercely independent and free, and she intended to keep it that way. But as she lay in bed that night, the city of London around her, vibrant and alive, she knew she couldn't ignore her feelings for William any longer. She didn't know what this meant for her independence, but she knew she had to confront her feelings. As she drifted off to sleep, her mind filled with thoughts of William, she made a decision. She would confront her feelings, confront William. She was still unsure about what this meant for her independence, but she knew she couldn't ignore her feelings any longer. The morning sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon as Isabella made her way to William's project site. Her heart pounded in her chest, a mix of anticipation and fear. She had made a decision to confront her feelings for William. She was still unsure about what this meant for her independence, but she knew she couldn't ignore her feelings any longer. As she approached the site, she saw William, his figure silhouetted against the rising sun. He turned as he heard her approach, a smile of welcome on his face. "Isabella," he greeted, his voice warm. "It's early for a visit." Isabella took a deep breath, steeling herself for the conversation ahead. "William," she began, her voice steady despite the turmoil within her. "We need to talk." They found a quiet spot, away from the hustle and bustle of the project site. Isabella expressed her feelings, her words honest and raw. She spoke of her attraction to him, her respect for him. But she also spoke of her fears, her fear of losing her independence, her fear of surrendering to the sweet possibility of love. William listened, his gaze steady on her. When she finished, he took a moment before responding. "Isabella," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "I respect your independence. I value it as much as you do. I would never ask you to give it up." His words, sincere and understanding, eased some of the tension in Isabella's heart. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not just the architect, not just the business associate, but the man who respected her, who valued her, who cared for her. Despite the heavy conversation, they shared a moment of connection. A shared smile, a mutual understanding, a moment of silence as they watched the sun rise over the city. It was a moment that deepened their relationship, a moment that hinted at the possibility of something more. As Isabella made her way home, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts. She reflected on William's words, on his respect for her independence, on his understanding of her fears. She felt a sense of reassurance, a sense of hope. Maybe she could explore her feelings for William without fear of losing her independence. She confided in Margaret about her conversation with William. Margaret listened, her eyes filled with understanding. "Isabella," she said gently, "you can explore your feelings for William without losing your independence. Love and independence are not mutually exclusive." Isabella considered her friend's words, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. She knew Margaret was right, but she was still afraid. She was Isabella, fiercely independent and free, and she intended to keep it that way. But as she lay in bed that night, the city of London around her, vibrant and alive, she made a decision. She would explore her relationship with William, she would explore her feelings, but she would not lose her independence. She was still unsure about the future, but she was ready to take this step forward. The city of London was alive with the energy of the Industrial Revolution, its streets bustling with activity. Amidst this chaos, a unique relationship was blossoming. Isabella and William, two fiercely independent individuals, were finding a connection that went beyond their professional association. They spent more time together, their interactions filled with shared laughter, intellectual discussions, and moments of comfortable silence. With each interaction, their bond deepened, their understanding of each other grew. Yet, Isabella's struggle with her growing feelings for William and her desire to maintain her independence was a constant undercurrent. One day, a crisis at Isabella's shop shook her. A large order was canceled at the last minute, leaving her with a surplus of textiles and a significant financial loss. The incident left Isabella questioning her ability to handle everything on her own. William, upon learning about the crisis, offered his support. He didn't try to solve her problems, knowing well her desire to handle her affairs independently. Instead, he offered a listening ear, a comforting presence. His actions, respectful and understanding, provided Isabella with a sense of reassurance. This incident, while challenging, served to deepen Isabella's feelings for William. She realized that his respect for her independence was not just words, but actions. She began to see the possibility of a partnership that didn't confine her, but allowed her to flourish. Margaret, ever the supportive friend, continued to provide reassurance and advice. "Isabella," she said gently, "you can be in love and still be independent. Don't let your fear of losing your independence stop you from exploring your feelings for William." Isabella considered her friend's words, her mind a whirlwind of thoughts. She knew Margaret was right, but the fear of losing her independence was deeply ingrained. Yet, as she thought about William, his respect for her, his understanding of her fears, she felt a sense of peace. As the city of London settled into the night, its streets bathed in the warm glow of the street lamps, Isabella made a decision. She decided to surrender to her feelings for William. She realized that she could be in love and still maintain her independence. She was still unsure about the future, but she was ready to embrace her feelings. The city of London was bathed in the soft glow of the morning sun as Isabella made her way to William's project site. Her heart was light, her steps filled with a newfound determination. She had made a decision to embrace her feelings for William while maintaining her cherished independence. She found William overseeing the workers, his figure standing tall against the backdrop of the rising sun. He turned as he heard her approach, a warm smile spreading across his face. "Isabella," he greeted, his voice filled with genuine happiness. "What brings you here so early?" Isabella took a deep breath, gathering her thoughts. "William," she began, her voice steady, "I have something to tell you." They found a quiet spot, away from the hustle and bustle of the project site. Isabella expressed her feelings, her words honest and raw. She spoke of her love for him, her respect for him, but she also spoke of her desire to maintain her independence, her fear of losing herself in love. William listened, his gaze steady on her. When she finished, he took a moment before responding. "Isabella," he said, his voice calm and reassuring, "I respect your independence. I value it as much as you do. I would never ask you to give it up. I love you for who you are, and that includes your fierce independence." His words, sincere and understanding, filled Isabella's heart with a sense of peace. She looked at him, really looked at him, and saw not just the architect, not just the business associate, but the man who loved her, respected her, and valued her independence. In the days that followed, Isabella and William began to explore their relationship. Their interactions were filled with shared laughter, intellectual discussions, and moments of comfortable silence. They navigated their relationship with care, ensuring that their independence was not compromised. Margaret, ever the supportive friend, was happy for Isabella. She saw her friend find a balance between love and independence, and it filled her heart with joy. "Isabella," she said one day, her eyes twinkling with happiness, "you found a way to have both love and independence. I'm proud of you." As Isabella reflected on her journey, she felt a sense of peace. She had managed to find a balance between her love for William and her cherished independence. She realized that she could have both, and this realization brought her a sense of contentment. As the city of London settled into the night, its streets bathed in the warm glow of the street lamps, Isabella made a promise to herself. She promised to continue to cherish her independence, to continue to be fiercely independent. but she also promised to surrender to her love for William, to explore the sweet possibility of a partnership that didn't confine her. As our story comes to a close, let the lull of this soothing ambiance continue to cradle you further into your journey of calmness and rest. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of your relaxation and sleep routine tonight. Remember, each day brings a new story, and each night brings a fresh chance to regenerate, to dream, and to become more of who you are. As this background sound lulls you further into sleep, I hope you find peace, comfort, and a well-deserved rest. Good night, dear listener. Until our next story, sleep well and dream beautifully.